Hey everybody, what's happening? It's Robert Phoenix here. Good to see you today. Of course, I've got the stripped down coronavirus background effect going on right now. Austerity. We're all supposed to be practicing some form of austerity, right? Emotional austerity, physical austerity, spiritual austerity. I'm just doing my part. That's all. And no, in actuality, I'm doing some stuff around here to change some things up. And by the way, everybody that jumped in and got a reading yesterday, thank you. I'll be getting back to you after today's show early this evening. It's been a very busy morning. And I want to personally thank Brian Mertz and Texas Caregivers for jumping in and, really lending a hand. And by the way, not just yesterday, but Brian and Texas Caregivers has been a real solid supporter of the show over the past year, and a real solid supporter with Clean Water Fred as well. So, Brian, I've never officially thanked you on the air. I did have you on the show, and you talked about your foundation that you started. But here's a formal thank you. Thank you very much for all that you have done and continue to do and to help move the ball forward and hold the space, right? So, big ups to Brian. If he's in the chat room today, he goes by Wise Night Owl. Give him a high five. All right, let's check in with Chatlandia. Let's see what we got there in Chatlandia circles. There's Ian and Jennifer. Hey, Jennifer. There's JMP Love. Hey, JMP. Thought the background was just naked. Yes. We're all naked now, aren't we? Hi, Ginger. Good to see you. There's Kestrel and Christine and Joe and Mary. Hi, Mary. And Marlene. Hey, Marlene. Good to see you. So we're all kind of hanging out now, aren't we? We're assembling. We are. It's okay to be a white background. Oh my God, that's hilarious, Kestrel. That is hilarious. Very funny stuff. Very, very funny. So let's see. Where are we? Well, we're here. It's the Friday FARcast. We've made it through another week where time seems to have been eradicated. I wanted to share an email with you guys from a good friend from New Zealand, my buddy Murray, and Murray wrote a couple of pieces for my website on Capricorn, and they were just spectacularly received when he wrote those two pieces on Capricorn. Of course, Murray being a Capricorn, he has sort of the inside story on the sign in his own unique way. And I wanted to share something with you that he sent to me yesterday. Let me see if I can find this. My buddy Murray Hill. Here we go. I'll read you his email. This is great. This is great stuff. We've been talking about time, and I've been exploring the evaporation of time through the sign of Capricorn, which is the chronometer, Saturn being the chronometer of the chart. And I've been talking about that for a while now, and especially with the South Node, because the South Node has provided this very interesting kind of evacuation point for time through this time that we're in, or non-time that we're in, the hijacking of 2020. So I want to read to you what Murray wrote to me. He said, "Hi, Robert, the penny dropped this morning. That old saying, time is money, well, that's not true anymore. By being put into involuntary, there's the key, involuntary seclusion, we have been separated from our work, our labor, and the fruits of that labor. Our time is no longer considered to be of value to the Borg mind. Let me repeat that again. Our time is no longer considered to be of value to the Borg mind. There is a new unit of value about to be introduced. It might be carbon if the Green New Deal goes ahead. It might be something digital, perhaps computing power itself. It might be biomass or CO2. For some reason, it has been decreed that time, human work in the developed world, is no longer the basic unit of value. Wrap your head around that. And I agree. I agree. And it's been something that I've been talking about. And, obviously Murray's been following, and then he had his own take. This whole idea and order of time is being completely restructured before our very eyes. So it's an interesting phenomenon in a lot of ways, because what does time do? It roots us to the third dimensional experience. I mean, we measure our third dimensional experience through the linear procession through time. We have beginnings and middles and ends, right? I mean, that's how theoretically time works. We have cycles and cycles in time and cycles within cycles of time. And those are a bit more, how shall we say, esoteric, and you have to understand them. Clearly, we have the seasons, which are cyclical. We have events, which are seasonal. They've been eradicated now. Those events that allow us to mark the seasons have been eradicated. Easter is about to be completely hijacked and eradicated, because Easter really was this kind of resurrection event that has a relationship, with the resurrection of the sun, especially in the northern hemisphere. Don't want to leave our southern people out of the equation. Got to demarcate that. But that's, it's one of those obvious kinds of transferences of the pagan world and the Christian world where they come together. Easter, Easter, Esther. You guys know the story, right? But we're not having that this year. We're not having that. So time has been hijacked. Linear time has been hijacked. Third dimensional reality is now in a state of suspended animation. Wrap your head around that. If we're no longer in third dimensional reality as defined by time, well, where are we? Where are we? Got a great show planned out for you today. I got my pal from SoCal, Ersilia Pompilio, Rogue Nurse Media. I think she might be in the waiting room now. And then at the top of the hour, Stefan Verstappen. You're going to love Stefan. He's going to resonate and just strum every chord that we cover here on this show and on 15 Minutes of Flame, about community, spiritual community, preparedness, how we got to where we are, what we can do. You're gonna want to make Stefan's website a part of your bookmarks, and you want to keep up with him because he's a great resource. And we're going to get into things with him in the second hour. He's got a great show planned for you. Thanks again to Steve. Big Steve is going to be on at the end of our segment today with Ersilia. He'll interface with you guys in the chat room. So if you have any questions for Ersilia, Steve will be able to bring him into the show and discuss them. Ask Ersilia. All right, let's see who we have in chat. Or I'm sorry, not in chat, but in the waiting room. There's Steve in the waiting room. Let's bring him on. There we go. You're going to get in there. All right. So we got our boy Steve in. There he is. All right.
Okay, let's see.
You're talking now, man. You are on.
Yeah, I'm trying to get the video going here. Let's see.
No, I'm the god of video. I'll take care of that.
Oh, you're the video god. Okay. Well, how you doing?
Hold on one sec. Here we go. Let me make you. Hold on. You're unmuted. More. Make host remove. You should be.
There,
hold on. There it is. There it is.
There it is. There we go. How
All
you
right.
doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm really looking forward to today's show.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to be here again. Ersilia, that's going to be really interesting. I've read over her notes, and uh, what is it? I can't remember.
We're
Anyway,
gonna get it. We're gonna get it. We're gonna
yeah,
get the Florence Nightingale with
Florence
her.
Nightengale. That's right. Sorry.
Yeah, she's got some really interesting syncs with Florence Nightingale, and Ersilia is a synchronicity. She's a synchronicity monster. I mean, this is a person who just gets into that sync flow, and things just kind of open up, right?
Right.
So I mean, every time I talk to her, she's got something new that's just kind of exploding on the horizon.
That,
And
that's awesome.
yeah, so she's going to bring some really good material today. So what do you think about this concept of non-time, Steve, and no longer being anchored and rooted to the third dimension? What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah. Well, we've been experiencing time changes for a while now, and I always go back to uh, oh, what's his name? Now I can't remember his name. Uh,
Steve, you got to take your Alex Jones pills, man.
I know. Yeah, I've been like this all week. I've got it all in my head, and when I try,
Right.
I'm just not quite there yet.
That's all right.
Anyway, yeah, just let me try to get it together, and maybe when we come back after Ursula, then
Yeah. When we bring you back on, if you figure out like the time reference,
right.
it just feels to me because Saturn rules time.
Hmm.
And Saturn theoretically rules the world. So
Right.
the lords of time have decreed there is no time anymore. Right?
Hmm.
That's kind of where we are now. And now that we moved into Saturn and Aquarius, we're ready for a new time. And so we'll get I know we'll get into that with Stefan
Right.
and we'll get his thoughts on this.
Right.
So well, good, man. I'm glad you're here. I'm gonna put you
I'm
back.
here.
I'm gonna put you back in suspended animation
Okay.
and go take your Alex Jones pills, and we'll bring you back, and you can interface with the chat, and we'll see you in a few.
Good deal. See you
Okay.
later.
All
Okay.
right. So we're gonna stop Steve's video there, and you're back to me. All right. So we're just waiting for Ersilia to come on, and then begin to enlighten you guys a little bit as to what's happening medically. And she has some great information on vaccines. Let me show you her. My apologies. Let me show you her website so you guys can wrap your arms around it. Here we go. Because I'm using my computer from 2009. It's a little on the hamster wheel side of things. So things take a little bit longer here. Okay, here we go. So this is Rogue Nurse Media. That's her website. Right. And she's very, very much involved in uh, both alternative and mainstream media. She was just asked to lend a quote for a story on Forbes.com. So she's all over the place. And I met her I met her as a client. She came through the client door, and then I found out what she did, and I thought, man, this woman is really, really interesting. And I wanted to get her on the show. We talked about this for a while, and as they say, timing is everything, right? So again, here's another bookmark you want to make: Rogue Nurse Media. You want to be able to keep up with Ersilia because she is on the front lines of being the anti-nurse in a lot of ways. I'm not sure if she would embrace being the anti-nurse, but maybe she will. Maybe she will. So we're still waiting for her to come in. Let me check in with you guys in Chatlandia. See what's happening. Just touch base because there's plenty I can talk about. You know that. You know that. All right. Chronos versus Kairos. Hey, there's Joseph. What's going on, Joseph? And Joe, we got 3 Joes in a row. How about that? Lunar time, 1320 frequency shift. There's Uncle Glenn. What's going on, Uncle? Good to see you. There's Jennifer, somebody else in the medical profession. Kelly from Las Vegas. Las Vegas, another ghost town. Another ghost town. Let's see who else do we have. Ani's in the house. What's going on? There's my man, Steven. Good to you, Steve. Good to see you, Steven. And there's Beth. Hey, Beth. Phoebe Kane. Oh, there's Lori. Hey, Lori. I'm here working from home at new job. Officially laid off after today for 90 days. Jeez. My God. My God. That is really a pain in the ass. Hey, there's Joan. Hey, Joni. What's happening? I will suspend my disbelief for your benefit. What's going on with Ani? Is she closing her house? What's happening there? Let me find out what's going on with the wench with a wrench. Let's see. We're gonna see some Ani. We have art with Joe. We have a lot of Joes. We're just irregular Joes in here today. Hey, Tamara, what's happening? There's DJ MC. And let's see. I'm not seeing any. There's Lynn. Hi, Lynn. Good to see you. All right. So I guess she just said closing on her house. All right. Well, congratulations and good luck on that. I wish you all the best on that, Ani. Looks like we got Ersilia speaking in the house. What's going on, Ersilia? Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. Loud and clear.
Oh, here we go. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey. All right.
What's happening? I can hear you. I'm going to give you the gift of video now.
Awesome.
There you go.
Okay. Start my video. Hey.
Hey, there she is. All right. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Glad to be here. Pretty crazy.
I know. Wild times, huh?
Hi, strange indeed. So yeah.
Well, say hello to the internets and Chatlandia.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the apocalypse. Happy apocalypse to Everyone. And look what I got. Can you see what this is?
It's Trump TP. Oh my God. That's awesome.
I actually bought it before the whole TP debacle happened. I was going to send it to a friend of mine who hates Trump because our birthdays are literally 2 days apart. Mm-hmm. And there's a little store in Palm Springs that sells it. So I saw it. I was like, oh, I got to send it to him. I think he'll be funny. And then all the, but this is my revelations. I have all these downloads all the time and who knows?
I know that's what I was saying to people. Like you're a sync monster. I mean,
I'm AI, yeah. I pick up all these weird frequencies and these weird downloads all the time. And it's too much that I have to sometimes just go away.
Right.
I go to the desert, but then there's more there too. So.
Yeah, right. It probably happens even more, but at a kind of, I don't know, Moses-like level, a revelatory kind of style, right?
Yeah, it's much more subtle there. It's much more calm, I guess, and much more inviting. Here, it's like, it's like I feel like I'm being bombarded and beat up. So it's intense sometimes. Yeah.
Well, you're a Pisces, so once the flow gets going, it really gets going, and that's the story of Pisces.
It sure does. And if I could give you a shout out, if anybody wants to get a read, you got to get a read from Robert. Let me tell you. I mean, he's been my oracle when I first got that read in late 2018, which has led us here today. I don't think if I would have gotten that read, I would have been putting everything together here,
Yeah. Well, thanks. And it's always been interesting to catch up with you. And, especially the last reading we did, which I think might have been the second reading, right? The follow-up reading. And
it was a follow-up March 5th on my birthday. Yes.
Yeah. And so you basically backfilled everything. And like, I could have just listened to you and not given you the reading. I mean, it was really kind of mind blowing and crazy, but thanks for that. So why don't we jump in here? And let me see the view here. What kind of view do I want? I want this view, or I want the gallery view. I guess we're going to do gallery view like this today. Why not? So here we go. My take on kind of where we are now. Let me just give you my read, and then you can jump in and kind of, navigate sort of along with this. I start to pick up signals from various sources that I think we're getting ready to kind of shut this thing down in about 2 to 2.5 weeks. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
when I say shut this thing down, I'm not talking about the system. I'm talking about the corona experience itself.
Yeah, it has to be shut down. I watched Del Bigtree yesterday, and he had an economist on, and he says if it doesn't get shut down in the next 2 weeks, literally in the next 2 weeks, the deaths are going to be more detrimental to right now, because in the depression, I mean, he showed that there's going to be 65% more deaths. And this is going to be from people being unemployed, who aren't going to be able to get their meds, who aren't going to be able to eat. They're not going to be able to work. Like, are you kidding me? It's like this domino effect that's going. And now with the whole chloroquinolone thing, they've shut chloroquinolone down for people who have lupus and who have autoimmune disease. Okay, their doctors now at Kaiser are changing their meds. Oh, you cannot have chloroquinolone anymore because there's going to be a shortage. What? In literally a week that they discuss chloroquinolone as a treatment for coronavirus, a potential treatment. Now people that have been using it for a while, who it showed that it helped, can no longer get it. Right. And so these are the immunocompromised. So what's going to happen to them? They're going to be more susceptible to the corona. And then we'll talk about what else is going on and what I found in my downloads. And also I back everything up in research. So I want people to know that I am a pediatric nurse practitioner. I have taught at 4 universities. I do have my own podcast called Nurses and Hypochondriacs. And guess what? The whole world is a big hypochondriac right now. And the nurses are the ones that are going to really pull this one together. Right. But yeah, so that's what I do in a nutshell. I also teach storytelling and writing. And I've produced 14 storytelling stage shows. And go figure, my storytelling class that I'm teaching, the webinars that I'm doing now for free, is called Detox.
Right.
Because that's what we are in. We're like in the time of the apocalypse. Big reveal is coming. Revelations. Get ready for the big reveal.
Yeah. Right? And we are really detoxing from a lot of the habituation that we've been hamster wheeled in, from people traveling an hour every day to work and back and forth. And, and I actually think this is good. Like,
well, I've been saying
really good.
I've been saying for years, really, do you think your life is 9 to 5 and coming home and watching Netflix? Do you really think that's what your life is? Because I started living my life very differently 20 years ago. I thought my life was like that too. I went to school, I got a job, I got married, I bought a home, I got divorced. And I was like, what? It just, somebody took the rug out from under me. And I was like, wait a minute, this is not how it's supposed to go. So I was like, okay, well, obviously I'm going to give everybody a big FU and go live my life the way I want it to be. And I'm just going to follow my intuition. And my life took a very, very different turn. And it was very interesting. So. Yeah.
Yep. So the signs that I'm seeing are kind of, manifold. First of all, airlines are starting to raise their fares. Think about that.
Interesting.
So they know something's up because they're going to be moving people around again. That's number one.
Right. So check this out. But Qatar Airlines, because I'm working by the airport now, and I'm looking up in the skies. I saw Qatar Airlines the other day. I'm like, interesting. Guess certain borders are only open to certain people, right?
Well, the UAE base has been, there's a lockdown on the UAE with travel. Now, I don't know where Qatar is flying to, but I know that the UAE has been, for the most part, cordoned off, right? But I'm sure for the special class or the special group, there's always a seat.
There's always a way,
There's always a way.
We saw that in
Absolutely.
9/11. The people that were able to get out of New York were the Arab Emirates people, right?
Right.
And so, yeah.
So we have airline flights going up, and then there are murmurs from the sporting world that Major League Baseball is figuring out how they're going to restart. They're talking about the restart of the NBA now. Mark Cuban is saying, well, we can get this thing together in June. So there are murmurs, and I can see this.
Right.
Now this is really interesting because it's in your part of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So they're building this big stadium, like SoFi Stadium. Which
yeah,
is
I'm working right next to that.
Okay. Oh, interesting. There's a sink right there, right?
Yeah, I'm actually working in Inglewood at the moment, and it is a very, and that's where the riots had happened around that area of Manchester, Florence, and stuff. So, but the area has taken a great turn, and it's really, really nice. The homes are expensive. They're beautiful homes, very manicured lawns. It's really nice.
Right. So they're building the stadium, and while everybody is supposed to be staying home in Los Angeles, the workers are still being allowed to build the stadium.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
Oh, also JPL. Okay, here we go. So I was leaving. One of my neighbors works for JPL, and he's like, "Oh, are you gonna go to the store?" He sees me, and I'm like, "No." And so we just started talking, and he told me, he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm still working too because JPL has deadlines, and he's an engineer at JPL." I was like, what kind of deadlines is it? What kind of deadlines? Like for what? And he ran away. And so
right.
Hello. Hi,
JPL, for those that don't know, is Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which in passing, which was the employment cradle for one Jack Parsons.
Yep.
And co-worker.
Alistair Crowley's friend.
Right. He was actually he was assigned to be the head of the OTO in the U.S.
Right.
But he got hijacked by another magus by the name of L. Ron Hubbard.
Right. They're all friends. Yeah. And they all hung out together. And
once Ron got in with Parsons, Crowley was very angry with them because they were doing things that theoretically Crowley didn't approve of.
Right, because they were manifesting. They were manifesting people. They were using high magic. They were creating all this stuff. They were really manipulating the geometry and stuff. They were manipulating the matrix quite a bit. Yeah.
Right. So the occult rumor is that through their Babylon working, which was the creation of what's called a moonlet, and the moonlet is the birth of an inorganic being, right? Yep. And then they used Jack Parsons' wife, Rosemary,
red hair,
right, as the vehicle for the moonlet. Now, the process around this was to get the circle all together, to get in the circle, and then they would have like music and candles, and the whole idea was to keep Rosemary Parsons in a hypnagogic trance for over like 20 hours. So they would do things like they would use cocaine to stay up, and they would take turns sexually stimulating her, right? And this would go on. And they didn't do just one. They were working on this for a while. And like through this thing where she'd get into this hypnagogic, sexually stimulated kind of place, that they would theoretically birth the moonlet, right?
Right.
And the moonlet, again, the occult rumor is that the moonlet turned out to be Hillary Clinton, and that she is the personification of the horror Babylon, the Lady in Red, which is really takes off in 20th century kind of folklore and myth. Anyway, that's whole Jack Parsons stuff. Let's get into what's happening with the coronavirus. How are your people, like the nurses, doing right now, and how are they responding to all this?
It's a lot of people are confused, I'm hearing lots of different things. I'm hearing some places are busy. I'm hearing surgeons are now being trained to work in the ER. I'm hearing some places are dead. Some places are ready. Some administrators are hoarding PPEs. So they're hoarding the masks and the protective gear. And this is a lot in Los Angeles. New York is a whole other ball of wax. I'm who knows what is really going on. I do believe people are getting sick. I don't discount what is going on. What is going on is real. But I'm hearing different things. At the county hospital here, I read an article that they are not going to be even testing people. Okay. So because they don't have proper coronavirus tests, so they're just going to go on based on their symptoms, which is really, a lot of my friends that I've talked to on the phone, I go, isn't this weird? I go, we used to have all these disease processes and now we only have one. We only have one disease process, which is coronavirus. And, forget about the people dying of cancer. Forget about the pediatric population, which is really being affected by this. Just because they do not get the disease process doesn't mean they're being affected, because we now can't see patients. We're following the CDC guidelines. We can't see patients in my clinic that have fever. And that's everybody in pediatrics, and so it's really a shit show, and they're really destroying the system. The system was already a hot mess,
Right.
all these CEOs who have no medical background telling us what to do all the time, telling healthcare professionals, doctors, nurses, researchers what to do, how to do it, when to do it, compromising our patients' care, compromising safety. I mean, there's been so much drama going on that nobody really knows about or wants to see because it's ugly.
Right.
People are afraid to leave their jobs and to blow these whistles, because then where am I going to get a job? I have kids now. I have a home. I have all this stuff. I have walked off many jobs, and to find another one literally in a day or two. And I've had a lot of training. Okay. So I don't want people to think, oh, where did this girl come from? I have been working on this, as you know, for 20 years. I've had lots of practices. I practice with shamans, hypnotherapists. I've really been working on myself because I've been very, very guided. I've been working to clear my drama. Okay. Working to reprogram my mind from what society has programmed it. And, my parents, and I grew up Catholic as well. So it's been work in reprogramming. So basically, going back to your question on the healthcare system, it's really broken. One place, the CEO used to be a respiratory therapist, and he was telling, this is a clinic, so he was telling his people, his doctors and nurse practitioners and physician assistants, hey, you know what? You don't need a mask. It's kind of like the flu, isn't it? It's okay. It's kind of like the flu. And there was someone there that was 65 and over still working there. And he's like, it's okay. They wouldn't let him go home. He's high risk. Have him go home and do telemed like everybody else is doing. And this is another thing, big surge in telemed. What stock is rising now? Telemed.
Right. Telemed.
And another big stock is also Zoom.
Are you kidding me? I checked it on Zoom about 3 weeks ago. I'm like, holy shit.
Everybody that, and that's a big stock too, because everybody is homeschooling, which again, the school system has been broken. Some of these kids need to be homeschooled. Some of these kids need to be with their parents, Right. And I was telling you about how my dad educated me, a little bit, and how I am here today and intuiting all this stuff. And I came up with the Florence Nightingale prophecies and stuff. So, which is all very interesting.
Well, why don't we segue into the Florence Nightingale stuff? And I think a good place to do that would be to talk about with the work that the amazing Polly has been doing around around Ukraine, and Yanovich and Deborah Bricks. This is really important stuff.
Yeah. So I was watching the amazing Polly yesterday, and she threw out one more video, and she's exhausted. And I feel that energetically she gave me her baton. And I was like, okay, my turn. And I was like, great, because I'll be on Robert's show, and you are a big fan of the amazing Polly. She said she's going to take a break for a bit because she's exhausted. And downloading this stuff, energetically through the computer, getting the downloads metaphysically is exhausting. Okay. I mean, I was downloading since Sunday, and I got lost at Whole Foods. Okay. I just kept going around in circles, and I kept going, doing this. What's going on?
Right.
It took me forever to get out of Whole Foods. So it's quite crazy. So
right. So she basically has made these connections, that through the Ukraine and through Deborah Bricks, who was, I believe, an ambassador at that point.
She's an ambassador for the Ukraine, and
Yep.
her big focus is HIV and AIDS.
Yeah. And by the way, I just have to say, I've been watching her. And when she first came on and started doing these briefings, she looked kind of regal.
Wait, she's not the ambassador to the Ukraine. Marie something.
Yanovich, or the Yanovich person.
Right,
yeah.
But she's in charge of HIV and AIDS, and she's in charge of the funds. So yeah, sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. But I've been noticing this really weird change with Deborah Bricks. She's looking strange now. Like I'm looking at her teeth are looking weird. Her face is looking. I mean, when she first came on, she had this kind of regal kind of thing going on. And now she's looking really, I mean, maybe it's because of the pressure or stress or whatever, but man, she does not look good when she gets up there now. She basically looks like a street person with nice clothes on. It's really weird to see this very rapid decline in her physiognomy and her energy. But the thumbnail is that she was sending a shitload of money to the Ukraine under the auspices of AIDS research, and basically it was a big slush fund, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think it was mainly in children having HIV and AIDS. And here's the thing that people do, and I do study marketing quite a bit. I used to work for Big Pharma for a bit, where I studied marketing and branding, because that's all they're all about. They're very into mind control, marketing, and branding.
Right.
And I worked for them for about 18 months or so. And, I was like, there are children dying from HIV and AIDS in the Ukraine. I never heard of this. I'm a pediatric nurse practitioner. I've been in the pediatric realm for a little over 20 years now, and this never came into my consciousness ever. As far, I have a lot of friends who are HIV positive, and because the drugs are so good, they're doing very, very well. And the virus is almost undetectable in their bloodstreams, and they take very good care of their bodies. A lot of them are very diligent, in just the homeostasis of their body and their immune system, and keeping themselves very healthy, because they still want to live on this planet,
right.
forward and stuff. So I really never ever heard of this. Interesting, yesterday in clinic, I have a couple of Nigerian students who are getting their nurse practitioner degree, and they sit with me, and I mentor them. So I was asking them, I was like, what do you guys think about this? I mean, in Nigeria, there's so much drama. And they're like, yep. And what about the HIV crisis in Nigeria? How is it? And she goes, well, this is how HIV works. We know what causes HIV. We know how to treat it, right? The problem is the misappropriation of funds.
Always.
It's the dictators that do not give us the money. So there we go. We cannot treat the people. So that's what's going on with HIV, in Nigeria. They have, the money to do it, but it's misappropriated through all the different parts of Nigeria. So that's the main problem. So I was like, oh, that's really interesting, but I never heard of Ukraine having an HIV problem, so much so that we have to give them 30 million, these millions of billions of dollars. Meanwhile, here in Los Angeles, our streets are ridden with homeless people,
right.
That need help, that have diseases, that have mental health issues, nobody cares about that. No, let's go give it to the Ukraine.
Right. Well, the reason that, the Ukraine became a slush fund, obviously, for a lot of different things, funneling money to the Ukraine, the money coming back to various individuals once the money gets thrown in there, right? Because that's what happens. You throw the money there, and then it gets washed and it gets recirculated, and it comes back to various individuals like Hunter Biden through Burisma or whatever. And this all took place when, they basically ran a false flag psychological operation. Right. And did a color revolution, with the Ukraine inside of the Obama White House from some Zionistic neocon holdovers from the Bush administration who were still hanging out there. I wanted to ask you really quickly before we get into the Florence Nightingale stuff. I find it really interesting that all of these celebrities and all these political leaders are now coming down with the coronavirus, like Boris Johnson. being the latest to say, I have coronavirus, right?
Well,
But
did you watch Polly's, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but did you watch Polly's video? I mean, there was Agenda 201 or whatever that was called.
Right.
And didn't I tell you, I'm getting these downloads that there is a war room somewhere. I've been to London. I've seen the war room that Winston Churchill had, this is very similar. So all these people came together to brand this. I mean,
absolutely.
Come on.
Absolutely. No, they're selling it.
Really,
they're
selling. Where did that come from? Everybody's adopting it like we've done it forever. I go, what?
Yeah, right.
And
exactly.
People are so ingrained, and that people have brands and marketing so in their head. They're so hypnotized by all this propaganda that we have. Okay. I mean, when I ask my patients, what are you feeding your baby? They say Gerber's. And I'm like, Gerber's is a corporation. It's like, so they look at me like I'm like crazy. And I go, come on. And I have to remind them what food is, what baby food is. Bananas, spinach, sweet potatoes.
You could do it all at home, right? I mean, that's really
you can do all at home, but they, to them, there is no food now. There is just Gerber's. It's one. Do you see what I'm saying? Just one disease process now, coronavirus, right?
Interesting. Well, the reason I brought up the celebrities up, and this had to do with the homeless, because you surfaced that, is that you would think that corona would be running rampant through the homeless community. I'm not so sure we're seeing those numbers.
Well, how are we going to see who's going to go out and test them? I mean, I took a walk with my art curator, who is also a nurse practitioner my nonprofit is called Rogue Nurse Media. Mm-hmm. So we took a walk on Saturday. We met at Mariachi Circle, and the mariachis were still out there looking for work. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, they're going to go play some Corona parties or something, So anyway, we took a walk from Mariachi Circle all the way to 4th Street. And let me tell you all the sigils that are in Los Angeles on these murals, because we're looking for walls to do murals on that are healthcare related, So we were looking at all these murals, and she has a great eye. And in these sigils, it's crazy. There is like all this crazy shit going on down there. But we did see a lot. They did clean up some of the streets from the homeless, and it was very clean because they did put them into hotels. That's what Mayor Garcetti said. They were going to put, people who wanted to go, I guess they were put in different places. But we were walking the streets. Everybody looked pretty fine. Nobody was coughing, and, it actually looked clean, and people were actually very nice, and they were saying hello to us, and we're like, hello, nobody asked us for money or anything, or, and it was very surreal, very apocalyptic when we were walking down there, because the streets there was nobody there, it was very interesting.
Yeah. That's why I ran across this story today on sfgate.com. And it's really interesting how rapidly nature moves in. This is coyotes are being seen on the empty streets of San Francisco. So check this out. Look at this. Coyotes now, which are an interesting symbol, right? Because they feed on kind of the refuse and the remnants of things that are being left behind.
But it's also probably because of the fires too. I mean, I don't know where exactly this is, but we get a lot of coyotes here too. I live in Burbank, so we get a lot of coyotes. You don't
see them in San Francisco. Trust me.
Yeah, you do see them here. Yeah.
This is an urban scene, right?
Yeah.
Very urban scene. Yeah, interesting stuff. Yeah. So let's jump into the Florence Nightingale piece. Let me find a good picture of her so people can see what Florence Nightingale looks like.
My notes here. I'm gonna try to minimize this screen a little bit because it got bigger, and I have to find my notes. So, can you minimize my screen? There we go. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. So Florence Nightingale. So. I just want everybody to know that 2020, the World Health Organization has deemed 2020 the year of the nurse. Okay, interesting, right? So that this is all happening now, the year of the nurse. And a lot of nurses are really pissed off about this coronavirus because they're like, finally, we get a year and it's being hijacked by Corona, and there was supposed to be all these festivities taking place, lots of conferences. I myself was going to be doing a lot of networking events for Rogue, and we were going to get these murals up. We were going to do a lot of art exhibits and everything. And now it's all gotten, hijacked quite a bit. So Florence Nightingale. So I like to call these the Florence Nightingale prophecies, much like the Nostradamus prophecies, because it's very interesting. So it is her 200th birthday. Every year on May 12th for a week, we celebrate Nurses Week, okay, to commemorate Florence Nightingale, who is known as the mother of nursing, right? Okay, so, there's all these weird things going on that Florence Nightingale had said that she envisioned, what does it say here? For the world to see the kind of nursing I envisioned, it'll take 150 years. So it's 1870, she said this in, plus 150 equals 2020. Okay, here we go. First thing. So Florence Nightingale was born in 1820. She was born in Florence, Italy, which is her namesake. Both of her parents were British. They were aristocrats. Her grandfather was William Smith Nightingale, and he was a Unitarian and an abolitionist who campaigned for slavery to be abolished. Okay, so this is a little bit important here. So she was born to a wealthy family. She, at the age of 17, she went to Egypt. Okay, and she got these downloads, and she felt she was called to something, so she was being called by a higher power of some kind to go ahead and help the people and to go into nursing and to leave her very rich family and to go do this work. She was also a statistician, okay? And she's known for creating pie graphs in the Fibonacci sequence, which is very interesting. So she was picking up a ton of downloads, a ton of this AI, these programs that were coming up, and then she would go ahead and do them. And I used to do this when I was a kid too. I would do a lot of Fibonacci's, and I would sit and be bored, especially if we'd go to the desert. I would do this and draw eyes a lot. So that was my thing, obsessively. So going down again, I have to see a minute. Okay. So yeah, so what she is mostly famous for was, she went to the Crimean War. She went, the British were fighting. A lot of soldiers were dying. She went to Crimea. Where is Crimea? But the Ukraine.
That's right. Right. And then they were dealing with malaria and cholera and what?
And cholera, and all the soldiers were dying. So what she found out was that the soldiers were being treated very terribly by the doctors. They were giving scraps of food. It was really dirty. So she went ahead and what is she famous for? Hand washing. Okay, because she noticed somebody was washing their hands, and that was one of the major forms of transmission of all the disease process that was going on in Crimea. So what was the number one thing that people started saying when Corona came out? Wash your hands.
Right.
A little bit weird. I mean, I did my podcast on Corona, and that's what we talked about as well, because nobody thought that this thing was going to get as crazy as it was, because everybody was saying, hey, it's like the flu. SARS was worse. It shouldn't be that much of an alarm thing. And we'll get to why it's so creating such cataclysmic craziness, pandemicness now. Okay. So yeah.
So wasn't she involved in quinine and chloroquinine?
Right. So the quinine and the chloroquinine is so she was pivotal in finding out about the quinine and the chloroquinine and in helping treat these soldiers from malaria. So, and quinine is in an octagon shape, okay, which is one part of the Fibonacci sequences. And if people don't know what Fibonacci is, I mean, we see Fibonacci sequences all over, like in sunflowers, all flowers, and it's a mathematical geometric shape. And it helps to, I mean, it's all about the flow of life, right? So yeah, so she was pivotal in getting these doctors to use this quinine to help the malarial victims as well. And so malaria is caused by a parasite. Okay. I've taken an anti-malaria. I've taken chloroquine before when I've gone to, before I went to Peru, because you can get malaria from the mosquitoes. Okay.
Right.
So it's a preventative drug as well. And so basically, malaria, chloroquine does the same thing for malaria as it does for coronavirus, and it has to do with the demineralization. I'm not sure if I'm using the proper terminology but it drains in both sequences. The water in the cells is being like dehydrated. There's a lot of toxicity, right? So the chloroquine, again, like it just helps to not have that process get out of control. So that's the basics of it. Okay, if you want more on what chloroquine does exactly in all the terms, you can go ahead and look it up. So that's just in a nutshell, very easily. So I think part of my downloads that I was getting, I was asked by a friend of mine who came onto my show as a guest for a blurb in Forbes, okay, which I thought was interesting. And she was writing an article on how coronavirus is gonna now change architecture in the home. Okay, which I thought this was weird. It was like, okay, we're just like 2 weeks into this, and now already we're gonna change all these things in our life to live our life around the coronavirus, right? So you know, the article is Touchless Tech to Vinyl Floors. Here's how coronavirus will change the homes. And it was mainly about a mud room. Okay. My parents have a mud room in their home in Los Angeles. I went ahead and I was a docent for my designer friend's mudroom that he did one time for the Pasadena Design House. So I was like, sure. And so I went ahead and gave her a blurb, and it was basically about how you need to take off your shoes before you get in the home. And I gave her the research for it and all this stuff. Well, go figure. Florence Nightengale used to give people writing for homes the same kind of information on how to live cleanliness in your home. And I think I sent producer Steve those blurbs, and right above my comment is the sequence. There's an octagon shape, not an octagon, but a hexagon shape right above my name. And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Which is high strange, you know. And when I went to my first astrologer in 2010, she told me that, she goes, you are going to be writing, you need to write for like Home and Garden and women magazines. And I was like, you're crazy, lady, you know. like I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, but okay, I'll start looking into it, you know. Which was very, very interesting. Okay, so
what are the other quotes? Now this is a little off Florence Nightingale, a little off topic.
Sorry.
But that's okay. But you said that you dated a doctor from Cuba.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So this is high strange. So I had met this guy at a clinic that I was doing clinicals in when I was in school, and he was a licensed vocational nurse. And my one partner friend would tell me, he's like, oh, you know, he's so cool, he's a doctor in Cuba, he's so smart. And I'm like, whatever, you know. And so he was a salsa dancer, and I had asked him out. He's like, go salsa dance with me. He's like, got a girlfriend. So years later, I happened to encounter him again at a coffee cart at a hospital I was working in. And I smiled at him, and I was like, he looks familiar, but I don't know. He found me. I don't know how he found me. This guy is super hyper intelligent, that he found an email of mine and sent me an email. He's like, hey, let's go out. And so I ended up going out with him. And he tells me that he was a doctor in Cuba, and that, you know, they study medicine from all our stuff, you know, so all old books go to them, all photocopied stuff. So he studied. So he told me he was super smart, and they saw that, he had this intelligence. He can read people. He would read me. He's super hyper intelligence. He got sent to Russia to engineer vaccines and bioweapons. So, and he kept telling me, like, he was telling me this, not like, oh, this is what I did. He literally this was heavy on his heart. Like, he was just like, you don't know what's coming. He's now a nurse practitioner too, but he was like, you do not know what's coming.
Right.
Be ready. And I'd be like, whatever, like I sort of believed in him. I sort of didn't. I was like, really, but here we are. Who is going to Italy to help Italy? Okay, so this is one, and I think my whole family is in Italy. They're under quarantine. Everybody's healthy, thank God. And I interviewed my cousin for my podcast, asking him what's going on down there. And I go, why haven't all the other, like, why isn't Switzerland coming to help you? Who is in Switzerland? That is their headquarters. So that was one of my questions. Why is no one else coming to help you guys? It seems like you guys are powerless. So China went to help Cuba and Russia. Interesting, right?
Yeah.
From my story that I'm telling you, why are they going?
Absolutely.
I had written an article on bioterrorism last year in 2019 with Jason Tetro, who is known as the Germ Guy. He's in Canada. He's written several books. He has his own podcast as well. And, we saw that people could be used as germ warfare, as bioterroristic warfare. I mean, back in the smallpox era, people would throw bodies over to infect other people, and here in Italy, in the Lombardy region in February, they had Hug a Chinese Day, and if anybody doesn't know, there is a lot of Chinese living in Italy. Nobody's talking about this on the media, right? Okay. Yep. Why? Because people didn't want their stuff. People didn't want their Armani suits made in China. So, hey, let's get the slaves and move them here. In 2008, my parents were living in Italy for a while. My dad comes back and says, oh, there's a lot of Chinese living in Italy now. And I was like, really? What are they doing then? He goes, I don't know. He goes, but they speak Italian really well, and he goes, not only do they speak Italian, but they speak the dialect really well, and my father's an immigrant here, and we've all been brought up to speak 3 languages, Spanish, Italian, and English. And so he was very impressed with that. And when I went in 2009, the same thing. And when I went in 2016, they opened up a lot of these 99-cent store type of things. And I kept asking my family, why are the Chinese here? So they didn't know. And I watched a documentary about the fashion industry. And this is what they said. Well, nobody wants to buy stuff made in China. So they went ahead and they brought these Chinese slaves over. And so they're living in squalor and making clothes. And I sent producer Steve that article that I read in the Beast, and they said there's about 200,000 Chinese living there now. And some of them are slaves, some of them are free. And this is how they're living to make.
Right. And they are slaves, by the way. They are kept essentially, just like, people like the young gals who are in massage parlors and, Pompano Beach or Jupiter, Florida. It's the same deal. The other thing that China's been doing is they've been working very, very diligently with Italy on the One Belt, One Road initiative. Oh, and if you look at the 5G map of China, you'll see that, Italy, you'll see that Italy is one of the most built out 5G regions.
Oh my God.
In Europe, right? Yeah.
That's Holly's thing with Dr. What's his name? I have
Cowan. Speaking of China, we've got Stefan Verstappen, who's in the chat in the waiting room right now. So Stefan, we're going to get to you in about 2 or 3 minutes, and we're going to bring you on, and we're going to shift gears and talk about kind of another level of this whole thing. But I did want to bring Steve on quickly to see if there's 1 or 2 questions that people have in the chat for you, Ersilia. So Steve, why don't you come on back on here, and you can interface with us. There we go. We should have some.
Here I am.
Hey, man.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. They want to know about what do you think about the forced vaccination?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's if you were watching Polly yesterday, so she went ahead and had said it's okay. So basically, this scientist, which I don't have his name, I can't find him on my notes right now, And everybody needs to watch this video, because what he's saying is basically we've had pandemics in the past, okay? And he used the Spanish flu. And what happens each time there is a pandemic, but there is a lot of electrical activity that's going on.
Right.
And so what's happening in a person's body is they're having a massive detox. Okay. So their cells are purging all these toxins, and the more aluminum, the more metal you have in your body, the more something that happens with the water and stuff. So the more you're going to be affected by the 5G. And he said that where was the most concentrated of 5G satellites? In Wuhan and in Italy now. So that is another great correlation and stuff.
Yeah.
So Bill Gates, which I don't know where he went to where he took his microbiology classes or any science classes. All of a sudden he's an expert and we all have to listen to him, talk about vaccines and stuff. So I have seen, working in healthcare for many years, there are some vaccines that are great. There are some vaccines that I think that need more research. I don't believe, working in pharma, they don't really have great agendas. It's like I was selling a drug, or I was consulting on a drug, like I'd go and educate people, that was only 1% better than the generic, but cost $350. Meanwhile, the generic cost $5. Seriously? Why are we doing this? Why? So that we could go and stay at fancy hotels and eat at fancy restaurants and have Harry Connick Jr. come play for a concert for us.
Right.
While we're in Orlando, Florida, while they shut down the one of the Universal Studios places, so we could have our meeting there, Mardi Gras style.
Right. But by the name, that doctor's name is Cowan. I believe it's Thomas Cowan.
Yeah, Thomas Cowan, that's it.
So if you haven't found the video, go check it out. It's real important. And the basic premise is that every time they introduce a new frequency, whether it's radio frequencies or television frequencies or cable uplinks, or now we're dealing with 5G, there seems to be a type of dis-ease or unease that is felt by people when they ratchet up the frequencies. Right?
Exactly.
Okay. We're gonna bring Stefan up here soon in a second. Apparently, we're seeing you got to get out of here because Stefan has decided that we're gonna see his screen. I guess that's okay for now. Ersilia, why don't we have you back here? Because obviously, there's a ton of information that you can share with us.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see what's going to happen. I think this is going to wrap up within the next week. We need to get people to work. If you're listening to this, write your politicians about what is going on. I mean, I'm going to fire off a letter to Mr. Garcetti today, because he's like shutting people down. He's going to cut off their water who are not like helpful people. I don't know, something like that. I mean, I'd like to go get my hair done. I mean, not that this is just what it's all about, but everybody needs to get back to work into their lives. I mean, we're going to have much more cataclysmic stuff. I mean, they're really mind controlling people with this. Let's flatten the curve. Okay, where's your research when half of the hospitals aren't even giving their people like the death? How are you? No, it's so ridiculous. It's like, if really going on with this shut the 5G down.
That ain't going to happen. But I have a bit of a different position. My position is don't go back to work. Don't go back to work. Keep your kids at home. Say thank you very much. We really, really love our downtime and our relaxing time. Thank you. This is the greatest gift you've given us. Carry on without us. We'll figure this out. To me,
I agree.
But it's either all or nothing, right? We've either got to sit it out or we go back in, and I know where the public will go. They wwon't be sitting with me on this one.
Right.
Ersilia. Yeah, go ahead.
People keep their guts healthy. Don't eat so much sugar, because I went to the supermarket. All the snacks are gone. So the number one thing to keep your immune system healthy, which Dr. Fauci is not talking about, the immune system, right? Isn't that weird? So really, no sugar. Do a keto diet. Keep your keto or carnivore diet, keep your gut healthy as possible, keep it in an alkaline state, eat a lot of avocados, alkaline water, to really keep your body healthy and not susceptible to what is going on. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Great.
it.
All right. All right.
Thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'll get you back on, and we'll go deeper with some stuff. This is a good
Yeah,
entree to you and your work.
there is a Dickens quality too. I mean, we could do that another time and talk about Dickens, because I don't think we're there yet. Because Dickens and Flo were best friends, but to be
Right. We'll dive in.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Ersilia. Rogue Media, go find her. Rogue Nurse Media, go find her, and we'll find her again in the next.
Hypochondriacs on that's our podcast. So.
Okay. Thanks again for coming on. We'll see you. All right. Bye-bye. All right. I think Stefan is taking us on a journey here. Let's open up his mic and see what's going on with him. I think we're going on a journey. Hey, Stefan.
Hey, Robert. How you doing?
I'm good. Are you taking us on a little sentimental journey here in the swamps of Florida or something? What's happening there?
Well, I just noticed that everybody's got their webcam on, and I don't have a webcam, so I thought, well, why don't I just play you some home movies?
I like the sound of that. I like the look of it even better. How are you doing today?
I'm hanging in there. How about you?
I'm good, man. I'm really good. I mean, I think we're all of this mindset that we're not going to let this external reality dictate the terms and agreements of how we're doing internally. And that's kind of been my basis and focus and mission. And it seems to be working out pretty well right now. But what are your thoughts on the external versus the internal, Stefan?
Well, I practice Stoicism. So what I do is same as the Zen masters, is just I sit back and I observe. And what goes on the outside doesn't have to affect me on the inside.
Yeah.
So that's, I just watch. I don't react to it. I don't get offended. I do get a little bit angry, sort of frustrated, because I see the world falling apart. And I see what's coming, and I see how many people are going to suffer horribly. And it's not just the people that I have tried to educate and warn, but they all have children. Do you really want to put your children through what's coming? Like if there's so many people out there don't want to listen, don't want to take the red pill, don't want to figure out what's really going on. Okay, that's fine. You're an adult, that's your business, but your ignorance is going to result in your children suffering. And so I still try and wake people up. I still try to help them. Please, for the love of God, get an extra month's supply of food. Do something, anything. You have children. They can't figure this out. You got to figure it out. And if you figure things out, what you got to do is get some extra food, at the very minimum. Listen, everybody should be prepared anyways, at any time for anything. We live in a world with numerous natural and man-made disasters. I mean, we have earthquakes, we have forest fires, we have tsunamis, we have floods, we have chemical spills. At any time, you could be put into a situation where you have to survive on your own for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, even a couple of months. As we've seen with, like Hurricane Sandy and Hurricane Katrina, there were people that were out of power and food and access to roads and telephones for 2 months afterwards. So if you don't have at least a 3-day emergency kit in your house, then I don't know what to tell you. You're relying on a system to always be there. But what people don't know is that system, that infrastructure can collapse in a heartbeat. Just look at the recent natural disasters. Those people are on their own for weeks at a time. So at the very least, do something. But if you do absolutely nothing and this happens, well, you're going to be in a world of hurt.
Yeah. This is something I've been talking about now for going on 2-3 years. I've been sharing with people that you need at least 30 days worth of food, 30 days worth of food and water. That's at the minimum. And, I'm not preaching any paranoia or fear, but come on now. You're exactly right. I mean, we live in a very unstable and chaotic world. And to be able to have to depend on an outside or third party for your survival it's not even madness. It's puerile. It's being like a child.
Yes.
And it gives our so-called sovereignty and power over to these people that are consistently making these decisions, and in most cases, never in our best interest. So yeah,
They don't know what they're doing. And
yeah.
and the same thing, I'm not preaching paranoia. Everybody always say, "Oh, but you're paranoid." No, listen, I used to work for St. John Ambulance, which is the British Commonwealth version of the Red Cross. And I've participated in disaster simulations where, they closed down the center of town, and we had, hundreds of volunteers. Many of them pretended to be victims. And then we had first responders and fire department. And we would set up a scenario that, there was a gas explosion and 50 people are injured. You got everything from broken bones to burns to embedded objects. And then you had the volunteers come out and treat them and do triage and all. This is a part of natural life. I mean, can you say that the city of Brampton and the Red Cross and the fire department are paranoid because they practice a drill like this once every couple of years? They're not paranoid. They're just being prepared for what could happen and make sure that people are have a little bit of skills and training. So it's not being paranoid to say have a month's supply of food, have a first aid kit. There's nothing paranoid about that. It's common sense. And if you don't have it, there's something wrong with you. We can't, we've been raised by the nanny state. Big daddy government's going to do everything for us. And the truth of the matter is, big daddy government is the source of everything wrong with society. They're not going to do anything for you. So you're placing your hopes in the hands of people that are not only incompetent, are not only corrupt, but they're psychopathic. They don't care.
They're psychopathic, and one of their main goals is to invoke more learned helplessness and to keep people in a state of continual dependency.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A difference what I did as a kid and what I see young men today do, and it's a world apart. I mean, we knew we worked on motors, we could fix things, we souped up our bicycles when we were 6 years old, changed out the gears, put on the fat tires and the sissy bars and the banana seats and the extended forks. And we built tree forts and underground forts and log rafts and went up the creek. I mean, we had skills that, I'll give you an example. I was teaching a guy there in Ventura, California when I lived there a few years back. He's 31 years old. Mm-hmm. And I was teaching him martial arts a little bit. He wasn't that good. But anyways, I try to mentor young men,
Sure.
Whether or not they have any natural skill or not, the key is discipline. You can master anything, but you got to do it 10,000 times. That's all.
That's right. Yeah.
So, but young people don't have the discipline to practice something 10,000 times, which is once a day for 3 years. It's nothing,
Right. I want to, first of all, let me give people your website. It's called chinastrategies.com. And this is a website you want to bookmark this website because it's a veritable survival kit in one website online. Stefan has so much great content. He's got a survival library. He's got all kinds of great videos. He's got books. He's got a cat that looks like Jasper. So he's got to be all right. Now, I want to talk a little about China.
Sure.
Obviously, you've studied martial arts there. You have some insight into the Chinese psyche and into the Chinese character and dare I say soul.
Absolutely.
What can you tell us about the people of China versus the government or the corporate tyranny of China? How would you break that down?
Well, first of all, the Chinese are not a homogenous people. I know everybody thinks because they look similar, they're homogenous. There are actually as many different languages or subdialects in China as there are languages in Europe. If you think of it as kind of like Europe, each of the provinces is almost a separate country, different culture, different language, different traditions. So it's really a patchwork. However, what happened is since 1948, the communists seized control of China and they destroyed the place. Now, I've lived in Taiwan for 4 years and Hong Kong, and I've also worked throughout China I've had the VIP treatment in Beijing, Shenzhen, and Shanghai. I've been all over, and there are differences. Now, the problem is Chinese from communist China. You have to understand these people now have had 4 generations born and raised under the demonic ideology of communism, and it has affected their souls, their night markets, the cruelty towards animals, their indifference to suffering. I'm sure you've seen all those videos of people being hit by cars, even a young child being hit and run over by a truck, and the Chinese people just walking by, not even looking at it. Nobody going to help, which is, as a former first aid instructor, our job was to, be the first responder. If somebody got into an accident here, of course, I stopped my car. I got my first aid kit. I'm on the side of the road, making sure everybody's okay. In China, no, doesn't happen. That kid laid there. I'm thinking of one particular video. Laid there for like 15 minutes, and another car ran over him. I mean, it's ridiculous. So, but that's what the demonic ideology of communism does to people. It destroys their soul. It really does. And so, in mainland China, communist China, the one and only prime motivator for everything is money, which is, ironic. It's supposed to be a communist country. They're all supposed to theoretically share, but they learned long ago, money is everything. And those that belong to the Communist Party are the biggest robber barons there ever existed. They're maniacs. They're greedy and deceptive, but money is it. So contrast that to the people of Hong Kong. Now, in Hong Kong, that revolves around money, but it revolves around a capitalism style of monetary system. They work hard. Money is important to them, but money hasn't destroyed their soul like it has in mainland China. And I also lived in Taiwan, and I love the Taiwan people. They are the nicest of all the Chinese people. I like the Hong Kong. Not too fond of the mainland Chinese people, but it's not their fault. 4 generations, Robert, raised under Marxism. It just, not only does it destroy your mind and body, but it does destroy your soul. It's the most polluted country in the world. They have things called cancer villages because the manufacturing companies dump toxic metals into the local river, and the village down the river uses that same water for drinking and watering their crops. And then the cancer rate in that village goes up to like 80%. And it's all like a big mystery why this would happen. And there's literally hundreds, if not thousands, of cancer villages throughout China where people are dying from the pollution. So that's mainland China. They don't care. They don't care if they poison people, if they kill people. And we won't even get started into the concentration camps and the organ harvesting and all the other unbelievable evils that are being carried out in mainland China right now. The Taiwan people, they were always closely aligned with the United States, and they believed in a kind of constitutional republic, and they had a very laissez-faire approach to capitalism. And they're very nice people. I like the Taiwanese people. So when you say the Chinese, no, depends on the Chinese. Are they from Hong Kong? Are they from Taiwan? Or are they from a small village in mainland China? Or are they a member of the Communist Party that lives in Beijing, in which case they're a ruthless psychopath.
Right. One of my theories about psychopathology is that in as much as corona is a theoretical virus, psychopathology is a virus as well. And it spreads because people understand that in order to profit and stay in a game that the psychopath has determined the rules and conditions for, that they themselves have to adopt a psychopathic strategy or a psychopathic point of view or being in order to stay in that game and begin to work within that system and profit from whatever that system has accrued, because the psychopath has determined the rules of engagement. So in that regard, I think it's a virus, and it takes people over because it almost assimilates them like a Borg-like quality. What are your thoughts around that?
Well, I I mentioned that I described exactly that situation in my viral YouTube video called "Defense Against the Psychopath." Have you ever seen that?
I actually had it queued up before we did the show today, and I didn't get a chance to look at it, but I did see it. Yes, there's like 4 parts of it. Is that right?
Three parts, yeah.
3 parts. Yeah, 3 parts. And
Altogether, yeah.
I did dive into part 3.
Well, you'll
and
like it because
yeah,
you're saying exactly what's in the video. You see,
yeah.
what happens is that psychopaths create a psychopathic environment, and you're absolutely right. You have to adopt to the psychopathic values in order to operate and function in that paradigm, that world that these psychopaths create. So I give 2 examples. One is like a street gang. If you're a 13-year-old boy and you move to a neighborhood that's got a street gang, you've got 2 choices. One, you get beat up every day,
Mhm.
or 2, you join the gang.
Yeah.
Now, if you join the gang, you're expected to rob people and deal drugs and be violent and everything that goes along with being a gang member. And if you're not violent, look, I was in the street gang when I was 13, so I know. If you don't fit in with the kind of attitude of, screw everybody, let's get them, let's beat them up, let's rob them, let's take what we can. If you don't, which is purely psychopathic approach to life,
Right. Yeah.
it's the predator parasite kind of paradigm. Like, I got to take from everybody.
Right.
That's a psychopath. That's a psychopathic attitude. And the same thing with the street gangs. Oh, they got to take from everybody. They got to carjack. They got to rob. They got to shoplift. They got to deal drugs. They got to, so if you don't fit in with that, then you're out of the gang again. And now you're one of the victims. So you're forced, and it's like a virus, but you're forced to assimilate to the Borg mindset of that gang.
That's
Now,
right.
the reverse is true too. In the corporate world, in the upper echelons of the corporate environment, you have exactly the same dynamic being played out. Now, I remember listening to some of the recordings of that big energy company that went bankrupt there back.
Enron.
Enron, exactly.
Yeah.
So there you go. Enron's another example. Founded, run by psychopaths that created a psychopathic environment. And you could hear the recordings about these salesmen laughing and slapping each other on the back, how they screwed old people out of their pensions,
Mhm.
But if you didn't screw old people out of their pensions, you wouldn't have a job. So
Right.
again, you have the same thing. There's a psychopathic environment. The attitude in Enron was sell, 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 screw everybody you can. And the more you can screw people, the bigger the bonus for you. So you either fit in with that psychopathic attitude, or you don't work at Enron. Quite simple. So, and indeed, the psychopathic mentality is a form of a virus. The scary thing, Robert, our whole society is now run by psychopaths.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
everything.
No, it absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
And now we see what's happening. Everybody has to be a psychopath.
Right.
Everybody has to approach everybody else with an eye on, what can I get from them? Is he useful for my career? Can I sell him some life insurance? Can I use him to network to a monkey branch to a higher level of contact?
Mhm.
That's what everybody thinks about. It's disgusting. Everybody thinks about money, money, money. I talk to all my friends. What's going on? Oh, I'm thinking about money, money, money. Okay, look, I get it. Yes, money is an important thing. I understand that. It's not like I don't understand that money is important. But when do you take time to sing and play a guitar, or go for a walk in the woods, or like on my screen, take the canoe out and paddle down the river? When do you take time for that? Never. They don't do that because they're
Yeah.
too busy sitting at home, curled up in a fetal position going, money, money, money. You see, this is what happens when you live in a psychopathic society.
Right. Right. I mean, it's not just money. They have to protect their position, and they have to ward off the other psychopaths
Oh, yeah.
in order to protect them. So the accumulation of money is a hedge against other psychopaths claiming their position. If you really want to see a good movie about psychopathology, even though it's a kind of a terrible and cheesy movie, I highly recommend Battlefield Earth, which is L. Ron Hubbard popping up again today. It's the cinematic, quote unquote, portrayal of his science fiction novel. And there's a group in there called the Cyclos. And L. Ron Hubbard, for all of his own psychopathic warts, understood this inside and out from top to bottom. And the psychlos use what's called leverage in order to get what they need and get what they want. It's a very cheesy movie, but there's some really interesting tidbits in there. Stefan, I just want to bring this up. I just got sent this, and this is a different form of psychopathology. There's one that's based on greed, and greed is really kind of an outgrowth or kind of a tentacle of fear, right? So the new psychopathology has to do with driving fear programs. And I just got this. Maybe people can see this. This is COVID-19 petition, shelter in place in Fredericksburg and Gillespie County. Okay. This is being sent around by Change. Was it moveon.org or change.org? Who is it? Change.org. This is a company in San Francisco run by George, pardon my language here, fucking Soros. And they're getting into everybody's business and urging people to sign petitions to essentially nail themselves shut in their own homes. Okay. It's a different form of psychopathology, but it's off that same branch. And can you speak to that? Like the psychopathology, not of greed, but fear.
Yeah, that you see, the psychopaths use fear and intimidation, and that's one of their tricks in their little tool bag, and codependency and manipulation. And so I'll be honest with you, like I'm so disgusted with this George Soros character. I mean, here's this billionaire former Nazi running all around the world, everywhere, Europe, America, Canada, throwing money at organizations whose sole purpose is to undermine Western civilization. Why is this guy walking around? Honest to God, why is this guy walking around? What kind of a society are we? It's like if I was a school teacher and I had this big fat pedophile coming to recess every day and molesting the kids. You think I wouldn't have a word with them? And what we got is this big fat pedophile billionaire running around the country and molesting our culture and our people. Nobody's going to have a word with him. Nobody's going to say, okay, like you got billions of dollars. Can't you get a nice retire to a house in Spain or something? What the hell is this guy got his business, his nose in everybody's business? Unbelievable. But that just goes to show you part of what the psychopaths have done. What psychopaths want is willing victims, right? They don't want to work too hard. They don't want to have to make too much effort at conning you. So if you're stupid, that works in their favor. And lo and behold, the educational system for the last 100 years has been working feverishly on producing morons, and they've succeeded. And then the other thing they want is they want people dependent. So lo and behold, the educational system has been working feverishly for 100 years to make sure, like like that kid I was tutoring there in California, 31 years old, he didn't know how to pump up a bicycle tire. I mean, they know nothing. They can't look after themselves in any meaningful way. What a surprise. And then the third thing is the fear. They want to produce cowards, which is, why I wrote the book, The Master's Guide to the Way of the Warrior, which is based on my many years, my 40 years of teaching martial arts, but not just teaching martial arts, but researching the warrior traditions and writing a couple other books on it, like the 36 Strategies of Ancient China, which tells you how to be ruthless and strategic and cunning. Because a warrior, it's not just about punching people in the nose. It's about seeing things happen in advance, about perception, a razor sharp perception, so that you can never be surprised. You're never taken off guard. And also included in the book is how to develop self-confidence and courage. I think it was Socrates said that courage is the first virtue that makes all the other virtues possible. And what that means is, if you want to be a good person in this world, you better be brave, because the world will rise up and tear you to pieces, because we live in a psychopathic world. And if you're a person that wants to be a good man, a good woman, a stay-at-home mom and look after her kids, oh my God, you are going to attract the envy and hatred of all the little minds and the psychopath controlled people in the world, which is most of them. They will come after you. So in order for you to be a virtuous person, to say, no, I won't take the job at Enron, to say, no, I'm not joining the gang, we're moving out. You need courage. And part of what I try to do is teach the warrior path, because if we're not courageous enough, we're not going to make it. Everything else is secondary. Your preps, your preparations, your food supplies, all that is secondary if you're afraid, if you're cowering in fear.
Right.
Everything we learn in martial arts and in a war strategy is, if you can get your enemy to feel afraid, they've already lost.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why in the history of warfare, there's been many, many, many cases where, armies will dress up like demons or monsters, or they'll blow horns, or they'll scream, or they'll wear face paint. And, why did they do that? It's to scare the other army, And if you can scare the other army, you've got the advantage.
Yeah. I mean, nature does this too. You'll see, the like the lizard, who, puffs himself up and has this, giant, mane around his head, just to intimidate the other lizard. I mean, it's all very psychological.
Exactly.
I totally agree with you. Wanted to ask you a question about the way of the warrior, because you've got to understand how these people think. You have to understand how they think. And by understanding how they think, you can develop your own operating system based on that. How do we counter the psychopathology while building up the fearlessness, the warrior spirit, understanding people like, say, Sun Tzu or Machiavelli, or, these people that could get into the mind of the other from a psychological perspective? How do we do that? And what is the fine line between those two camps?
Yeah, I've been racking my brain for, like 40 years, Robert, on how to teach that.
Yeah.
I started this off because, people came into my class and wanted to learn a self-defense techniques. And they always have a question for me. Well, if I'm walking down a dark alley and suddenly I'm jumped by 6 guys with baseball bats, what's the best technique to use? I said, it's too late. Just bend
Best
over.
technique is get away from the dark alley. Don't walk down the fucking dark alley, right?
Exactly.
I mean, yeah.
Don't walk. Yeah. My question is, what the hell are you doing in a dark alley?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because once you put yourself in a situation like that, well, you're screwed. Come on. Yeah. What technique can you use? Even I can't, fight off 6 guys with baseball bats. I could probably fight off 3, but not 6.
Right.
But you would never catch me in a dark alley. I wouldn't be that stupid, because when I walk through a city, I look, I observe. I don't have a smartphone. My head is not down looking at a little tiny screen. Instead, my eyes are up. I'm looking for gang signs. I'm looking for graffiti. I'm looking for where's an escape route. What's the best way to go? I used to ride my bicycle everywhere. I've been through Compton and Oakville and all the nasty ghettos there in California. I bicycled through them all, but I had my head up. If I'm bicycling down the street and suddenly I see like 10 gangbangers on the corner up ahead, guess what? I turn around.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're talking about having a sense of vigilance about one's being and oneself, and understanding what's going on in the terrain 24/7 as much as you can. I mean, obviously you're sleeping, you're not being necessarily all that vigilant, although some people might be. But that's exactly what you're talking about. And this goes back to the dependency of the nanny state. It's like, oh, they take care of everything, and they're taking care of my safety, and they're taking care of my well-being. And that's not really the case. And we got real soft, Stefan.
Oh yeah.
Really, really soft. And right now we are just fatted pigs ready to go to the slaughter. That's exactly what we are.
Yeah. I don't think of myself as a tough guy. I mean, I'm a lot tougher than just about anybody I meet. I've been all over the world. I've taken all kinds of risks. I've sparred at least 10,000 men and women. I've fought all over the place: Thailand, Hong Kong, United States, Canada. I really enjoyed martial arts, even though I'm really an intellectual and an artist. I'm a touchy feely guy, but
Right. I can tell you're a sensitive guy. I can hear it in your voice. Yeah.
yeah, I'm all sensitive.
Yeah.
But I love the martial arts because it does teach you, that kind of awareness. No, you don't have to be 24/7 aware. No, when you get home, you lock
Yeah.
the door. Okay, now relax.
Right.
Let your guard down. Have a coffee. Have a beer. Read a book. Like take it easy. Don't worry about it. But if I'm out traveling in a strange neighborhood, guess what? My guard is up.
Hmm.
What's the mystery about that? You're going to a strange place. Of course you're going to keep your guard up. I let my guard down when I'm bicycling through the mountains because there's nothing in the mountains that's going to hurt me,
Hmm.
except for the cougars.
Right.
Um, so I keep a slight eye out for the cougars. Uh, but so it's it's a tool. It's in my book, the Way of the Warrior, about different types of awareness and how to use them and when to use them. You use the tool for the situation. So if I'm going downtown and I don't know what neighborhood I'm going into, which first of all, I always recommend it's in my other book, The Art of Urban Survival. If you're going into town, ask the locals what it's like down there. If you're staying at a hotel,
Yeah.
ask the front desk. Listen, I plan to go to this area and look for antiques or something. What's it like down there? And they'll tell you right away, stay out or it's fine. And if they
Hmm.
tell you to stay out, it's a bad neighborhood, you're likely to get mugged or carjacked, then don't go there. But even if you don't know anything and you're going in there, and how many times have people taken the wrong turn, and ended up in a neighborhood like, oh, we better keep going. We better get out of here. How do we get out of here?
Hmm.
Then, yes, bring your awareness up, focus, keep your guard up, look around you, use your instinct,
Hmm.
use your
Yeah.
instinct.
And many of us have been unfortunately cut off from our instincts because we live in a world where our instincts have been dulled. I mean, seriously dulled because
Sure.
everything we need is right at our disposal. In fact, instead of going down to the store, you can just click something online. It can be delivered to you within 24 hours. I mean, these things are nice and they add to the quality of our lives in some ways, but they certainly dull our instincts or add to the dulling of them. We have a pretty good chat room, and a lot of the same people show up, and there's a real spirit of community, a real esprit de corps. And I know you talk a lot about community in your work as well. And I think at some point, this thing is going to fall apart. It's going to collapse. It may not collapse in the next 2 weeks, but maybe in the next year and a half, where they decide to run another drill and another pandemic or whatever it is they're going to do. We're gonna witness the absolute velocity, extreme velocity of entropy. But I wanted to talk to you about spiritual community or community in general, and get your thoughts on what we're missing in our lives and what would be a kind of a representative model of the type of world that we could create.
Well, we're missing traditions and rituals. Um, Men especially have been affected. Listen, men have been targeted specifically. The women have been targeted as well. They've been targeted by this feminism psychopathy. And the purpose of targeting the women with feminism is to make them into uh, troublesome, whining bitches. That's what feminism produces. And it's tragic for women to be turned into a whining bitch. Women have a lot of noble qualities. They're not taught those noble qualities anymore. They're taught to complain and to feel entitled and to feel hard done by and to be a victim. Really, we don't want to teach people how to be victims. This is insanity. Teaching people to be victims is just priming you up for the slaughterhouse. That's what the psychopaths want. They want you to think you're a victim so that they can victimize you. So it's tragic what they've done to women, but what they've done to boys is even more tragic. They've deprived us from any connection with our traditions and our heritage and our masculinity. I was the same way. I was raised by a single mother who was a psychopath, completely self-entitled woman that just wanted to go shopping. That was her life, shopping and spending. And she was a hoarder and a lunatic, you know. And then she robbed and she robbed and embezzled and everybody she knew because she had
So
to
you
pay.
so you had a front row seat of the
I had a front row
process.
seat on that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And I didn't have a father in my life, and I didn't have uncles or grandparents. I didn't have a male teacher.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that saved me was my mother was always looking for things to get me out of the house. So she signed me for the Outward Bound Club
Mm-hmm.
when I was 12, and I did that for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what turned me into a man,
Yeah.
because they would take you up north into the woods, and they would teach you camping and how to build a fire and how to build a shelter and how to carry a canoe and how to purify water. And we had rope courses. You know the rope courses?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
When
Yeah.
we did those rope courses, nobody wore a safety helmet, and there were no
Mhm.
safety harnesses, and there were no safety nets, you know.
Right.
And we went rappelling, and we learned to fire a bow and arrow, and we learned to fire a 22 caliber rifle. And you know, 3 years of that, oh my God, I loved the woods because I felt like a man when I was at. That's why I'm running my canoe videos here, you know,
Mm-hmm. That's good. I like it.
because
Uh,
that's what makes me feel like a real man, doing this kind of stuff. And then afterwards, I started taking martial arts and so on.
mhm.
But they have destroyed the traditions. You see, I should have had a grandfather or an uncle or a father to teach me that, and I never did. And most guys don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. It's a great story because there's so many things that could have in that environment pushed you in a direction where who knows how you could have turned out. Like, you could have turned out to be a psychopath yourself or, you know,
Absolutely. You know what I was
yeah,
terrified of?
yeah.
You know what I
What's
was
that?
terrified of?
What's that?
You know the movie Psycho?
Yeah.
And so Norman Bates?
His mother.
No, I thought I would
Oh,
turn out to be Norman Bates.
right. But he had a weird relation with his mother who wasn't what she was dead, right? I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sorry if you haven't seen Psycho. I'm giving you the spoiler.
Spoilers. Yeah, on a
Right?
60-year-old
But
movie.
yeah, but it's the mother relationship
Exactly. And I thought,
that
oh my
turns him into
God,
the psycho.
his relationship with his mother is exactly like my relationship with my mother. So I'm going to grow up to be a serial killer. This is when I was 10, you know, I was
Right?
terrified of that.
Yeah.
And so one thing I did was the opposite of all of that,
Right.
you know.
Mhm.
Whatever my mother wanted, I'd do the opposite because I knew if I went along with her, that I would end up as Norman Bates. Now, of course, it was a pointless fear because psychopaths are born; they're not made by their mothers.
Mm.
But that's what I thought. Yeah,
Well, instead you became the Karate Kid.
I became, um, yeah, I became
Oh,
the warrior hero.
right, right,
You know, I've
right.
always white knighted. I've always been like that. You know,
How old are you, Stefan?
63.
Okay, so we're kind of close. You're a little bit older than me, but we have same social reference points and touch points as well. What do you think about where we are now with this vice grip of insanity, paranoia, and control that is being ratcheted up?
We're in a very bad situation, Robert. You and I, we know we've never seen anything like this. It's never happened in North America ever. Not
Mhm.
during World War One, not during the Civil War, not during World War Two. Nothing like this has ever happened. And then that it happens simultaneously throughout the world. First of all, if anyone needs any more proof that the entire world is now ruled by the demonic bankers and whatever evil satanic cabal they belong to, this is the proof. Who else could institute this weird shutdown, destroying the economies of every country in the world simultaneously?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that's number one. Number two, we are screwed, Robert. We need people that are smarter and better than what we have. That's the plain fact. You know,
Totally
there's not
agree.
enough of us to fight this. And so what I've been telling my friends and people, well, my listeners, I guess, um, we're not going to change this. This is going down. It's going down hard. The only hope we have, those of us who are awake, and I mean the 1%, 2% of the people that, get what we're really talking about here, our only chance is to become self-sufficient, to work together in communities, but not outward communities. You don't need to hang up a sign saying, North Dakota revolutionary militia, anything like that. You're just attracting attention to yourself. What you need to do is you work together, but you do it underground, which is what the bankers and the Masons and the Illuminati, that's how they started off. You think
Absolutely.
they hung up a big sign saying, join us as we take over the world and destroy it? No, they work underground through secret meetings and secret handshakes and keeping quiet about what you do. We need to do the same thing. Form communities, and there are dozens of ways to form these communities for dozens of purposes, for financial aid, for medical aid. This is all coming up in my, this will all be described in my upcoming book, The Complete Guide to Forming Communities for Mutual Aid, Support, and Charity. That's how our ancestors took care of themselves before we had big nanny governments, before we had all the so-called social net, which is rotting away. I wouldn't want to land on that net now. People look after each other. There were church groups, there were friendly societies, there were mutual aid societies, there was the Moose Lodge and the Foresters and the Goodfellows Club. And what they did is they all chipped in a little bit of money. And with that little bit of money, they were able to help each other. And that's what we need to do. If we can support each other, we'll say like a medical aid community where we pitch in money, we buy groups health insurance. We maybe even fund to have a medical nurse practitioner come by once a week, and everybody can go see her and talk about their ills, or even a medical doctor, pay for him to come by for a day. We'll rent a room at the library. Everybody that's a member of the group that's not feeling good, come by, have them check you out. You bypass the government medical system that way. You don't have to go, to the hospital where you're likely to get a disease and die rather than be cured. We can do that for ourselves. So for those of us who are listening, look, this is going down and it's going to be ugly, and many people are going to die. I know it's black pill, but listen, this is why people need to be warriors. You got to face the truth, and it's sometimes often very ugly. I've read a lot of history. I read what our ancestors went through, and it was horrific, far more horrible than anybody today can even imagine, unless you read the history I've read. And they survived it. Many, many died, but many lived as well, and they survived, and they went on to prosper. And so if you can't face that potential reality, then you're going to, like, when this hits you, you won't know what to do. And when you don't know what to do, your chances of surviving drop dramatically.
Right. Absolutely. I first ran across you on Jeff Rent's probably about, I don't know, 7, 8 months ago. And I really, really enjoyed what you had to say. And along the lines of the community share was an idea that I really resonated with, which is, and I'm not sure how we're going to do this moving forward. I mean, may have a brief window for this. So you may want to pay attention. Stefan brought up the idea that you get together with a group of people and you pool your money together and you go and buy bulk. And then you have either agreed upon place or a storage place, or you disseminate the goods. But when you get together and you buy bulk, the cost of everything comes down, and it saves you money. You can get better quality, and you get to do it with other people. That was a really great idea, Stefan.
Oh, thank you. Not my idea. It's an age-old tradition. It goes back thousands of years. Of course, we're not taught this in school. It's not any newspaper articles about it or magazine exposés about it. And it's very simple. You see, one of the strategies that the psychopaths in charge are implementing on us is radical individualism. We're not allowed to cooperate with each other. We have to always be suspicious of our neighbor. We can't get together and work together. No, everybody has to be in his own house and and be jealous of the neighbor if he gets a new lawnmower. And, you know, like we're segmented and fragmented like that. Now, what I was saying is, I go to the grocery store, I spend $100 a week on groceries.
Mm-hmm.
My next door neighbor goes to the grocery store, he spends $100 a week on groceries. The neighbor 2 doors down, I've got 5 guys that I know, they all go to the grocery store to spend $100 a week on groceries. If we go together, then we can go to a wholesaler. For example, the easiest would be we'll buy a membership at Costco, and then we all go and we all buy in bulk. Like I only need, 6 rolls of toilet paper a month. It's not worth it for me to buy, 50 rolls of toilet paper for the discount. But if I got 5 other people, okay, let's buy the 50 rolls of toilet paper. And now we've got the discount. So even something as simple as pooling your grocery money and going shopping together. And if you don't want to all go together, then put together a shopping list. Let 1 or 2 people go and get all the groceries and then come back and everybody pick up what they ordered. You already saved right off the top 25%. And considering how we are going to go into a massive hyperinflation. Pretty soon milk is going to be $25 a quart if you can get it.
It's already starting to happen, by the way. Prices are going up.
Yeah, it's going to happen. It's inevitable. It's predictable. See my video, how it will go down and how fast that will change. But I've seen it, but it's based on history. I researched the Weimar Republic, which is what we are in now, And during the Weimar Republic, you could go to the baker in the morning and he wants $2 for a loaf of bread. And then you go in the afternoon and he wants $15 for a loaf of bread. Right. That's how fast the inflation went up. So it's going to happen here too. So listen, if you're going to be able to afford anything, you better get a buying group together so you have a chance at buying at a discount. Now, let's say I get 10 people to cooperate with me. Now, it's really simple. What we're going to do is we're going to register as a nonprofit co-op, and we're going to get a wholesaler's license. So now I'm not going to Costco. I'm going to the warehouse that supplies Costco.
Oh, nice. I like that.
Right. And now instead of a 25% discount, I'm getting a 45, 50, 60% discount. But I need 10 people, So now when we go to the wholesalers, instead of laying down $500, we're laying down 2,000, 50, $3,000 at a time.
Right.
And we're buying,
These are great ideas. I mean, these are really fundamental, sound ideas that save money and actually stitches people together in kind of a common purpose and a real low impact common purpose.
Yeah, we all save. The Jews have a saying, like, the greatest shame for a Jew is to pay retail. So
everything's negotiable, right? Everything's negotiable.
Everything's negotiable. I always barter. I learned that in Morocco. You always, all they can do is say no. So
right.
But I always say, listen, if I pay you cash, will you give me 10% off? I don't need a receipt. Will you give me 15% off?
Right. Yeah.
Let's put it under the table. You don't have to pay taxes on it. Give me 10% off. Bum's the word. Listen, a lot of people will go for that. Everybody's so afraid of doing business under the table. But guess what, folks? 6 months from now, everything you're going to do is going to be under the table because you won't be able to afford it.
Right. Exactly. Absolutely. It's really funny. I listened to this guy, Dave Ramsey, and Dave, I actually kind of like Dave a little bit, but he's so old school and he's so by the book. And this one woman got on his show and she said, Dave, I'm thinking about taking a job that, I get paid under the table. And I'm like, yeah, you go get that job. Right. Absolutely. And he scolded her. Right. He scolded her because there's a thing in the United States that we have and we do. It's called income tax. Right. I'm like, oh, come on, man. And I mean, he helps some people, but now it was really interesting watching because he's a big investment guy. And he started to, kind of lose his shit when the market was going down, not because he has direct stocks, but because he has these mutual funds and these 401ks and they invest in the stock market. So he was scolding everybody for selling their stock. Of course, he's got an investment in this world. Anyway, it's just a bit of a side story. I guess the first thing that we would do or should do is to disabuse ourselves of the idea that number one, somebody's going to save us. And number two, that we're going to go back to kind of a pre 311 world. I mean, we might for a brief period of time, but the new world is going to be upon us. So to disabuse ourselves of the idea that someone's going to save us and that the old world is not coming back and the new world that's coming is a world that you're talking about, hyperinflation. We're going to be dealing with surveillance and control and people. And this is another thing, Stefan, I wanted to share with you or ask you about, is that I have noticed just within the last week or two, sort of the escalation of what I would call snitch culture and people getting really uptight about, whatever you're buying in the store, or getting really uptight about, two or three people gathering together, or if you're 4 feet away from somebody instead of 6 feet away in terms of their, social distancing. Like this is a thing now that's starting to merge, is this snitch culture. What do you think about that?
Well, snitch culture is always what occurs under a socialist government. And
Right.
let's make no mistake about it. Capitalism never existed in the United States in the form that people think capitalism exists. There was more capitalism and then less capitalism, but it's never been a capitalistic country. And in the last 40 years, especially Canada, where I live, we've become a socialist state. Make no mistake about it, we're under a communist rule as it is right now. All the 4 planks of the Communist Manifesto have long since been instituted in this country. We have the central bank, we have the illegal and immoral income tax. It's illegal and immoral. Not even the tyrant King John of England dared to institute an income tax. And they've taken over the schools and the media. So, we live in a socialist state. Now, what do socialists do? They institute snitch networks. They've always done that. That's, East Germany, Russia, Latvia, Estonia, China. Everybody's spying on each other. Everybody's ready to find out, did he do something wrong? Did he breach one of the rules? Let's turn him in. And then we'll get brownie points with the psychopaths that run things.
That's right.
So it's like the Matrix, where Neo is being taken through the initial training program, explaining what the Matrix is, and Morpheus is saying, "See, these are the people. They're the bankers and the secretaries, and they're walking around, but they're in the Matrix, and then every one of them is your enemy."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't want to. You figured me out as being a softie, Robert. I know I'm a sensitive guy. I don't like to think ill of people, but you can't trust them. I'm sorry, you can't. You have to really source out your team. Everybody needs to go out right after this interview and call people that they trust and tell them this: listen, things are going to get bad. Can we work together? Can I rely on you to have my back if I need help? And you can rely on me if you need help. That's it. Just ask them. Ask your friends, ask your family, the ones that you can trust, and tell them, I'm worried about the way that things are going. And can we just, stay in touch? Because that's the other thing. People don't contact each other. Call each other at least once a week. Check in on your family. Check in on your friends. How are you doing this week? Is there anything I can do to help you? Start like that. We need to develop a team of people that we can trust. But if they're not part of your team, I'm sorry. I wish it was different. We're always trying to be forgiving and understanding, and we've let our countries be invaded by millions of people that don't think like us at all. They could care less about us, but we're all trying to think of what we can do for everybody else. No. It's made you weak and vulnerable. I'm sorry. It's a war now, folks. It's a battle for survival. Such niceties as kumbaya doesn't exist in this world now. Maybe in the future, maybe it did way back in the 60s. But right now we are in wartime conditions. So you got to be shrewd. And being shrewd means, you know what it is, Robert? It's street smart. Like I said,
Absolutely.
I was part of a street gang,
Mhm.
and if you're not street smart and you're on the street, guess what happens to you?
You get cut, man. You get
Yeah,
cut, and then you bleed. That's what
that's
happens to
right.
you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
I'm not, yeah, I don't want to, turn people off or black pill them or make them depressed or scared or no, 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 no. If you're a warrior, you're not scared anyways. You're ready to deal with whatever happens. So forget about the fear. If you're afraid of stuff, then listen, start training, go for a walk in the woods, learn some skills.
Mhm.
Then you won't be afraid anymore. It's not about being afraid. It's about being shrewd and cunning because that's what a psychopathic society requires of you. And you won't survive in a psychopath society if you're not shrewd and cunning.
That's right. Know your enemy. I mean, that's really kind of a basic tenet of warfare or confrontation or conflict. You need to know the person or the entity that you're engaged with. And if you don't know them, then you're setting yourself up to be surprised in ways that you weren't really prepared for. But then again, there's Mike Tyson. And Mike Tyson says everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face, right? I mean, there's
Yeah.
that too. So you need to be able to take a blow. I mean, that's the other thing. You need to be able to take a blow. And I know a lot of people who are watching this, I know you've taken blows in your own life, whatever those things are. Okay. And they've all served to hopefully make you tougher and more resilient. And just, look at the situations and the trials and the life experiences you've been through. And I guarantee you, many of you have come through those. Now, it may have been painful or difficult, and you've had to recover, but you came through it. So if you need to look or find something, have an example of being able to overcome something, we all have it in our own lives. So we've got a library of experiences that we can tap into and begin to learn from again. Stefan, I want to bring Stephen Mercer back in, who's been hanging out with the chat room. And let's see if we've got some questions from our great chat room, aka Chatlandia. Let's see what Steve has for us. Hey, Steve,
My back.
you're on, brother.
Why can't I see me?
I don't know. I can see you, and
Yeah.
But-
Yeah. This has been great. Great chat room too. Masaki says that he notices that the SJWs are taking to the virus program the most. And that kind of speaks to the snitches too, doesn't it?
mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. The SJWs, they're the most programmed. They're the ones that have swallowed the blue pill every day. They're completely programmed. They're completely brainwashed. They're like Yuri Brezmenov, that famous interview he gave in the 80s, which is, I recommend everybody read that because that's what's happening.
Mhm.
But the SJWs are the ones that have been completely demoralized. And look, I'm sorry, they're not going to make it. They won't. They're going to be the first casualties of all this because they can't think for themselves. They have, first of all, they're cowards. They're completely dependent on the state. They're dependent on people telling them what to do. Guess what? You're not going to make it. So it's tragic. But the liberals, the leftists, the socialists, the college graduates, they are the weakest, and they also have the weakest mentality. And it's not going to be pretty. It's just not going to be pretty for them. You got to be tough, guys. Look, our ancestors lived through things that just would curl the hair on the back of your neck. I can't believe what they've lived through. Mastectomies without anesthetic. They had their legs and arms sawn off without anesthesia. They fought and they died by the hundreds of thousands from disease and hunger and starvation. We don't need to be as tough as they are. It would help, but we don't need to be that tough. But Jesus, Murphy, we need to be tougher than what we have now. Because if you're not going to make it. And the SJWs will not make it.
I have a follow up to that, Stefan. And I read a little brief snippet by a guy who spends a lot of time in ambulance. He's a CRT guy,
Hmm.
and like a first responder. And he goes, inner city, and he says when the tough guys, the supposed tough guys,
Uh-huh.
get cut or hurt or wounded, you get to see how untough they are. You probably have experienced this yourself.
Oh, absolutely. I've seen these guys. I know,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
when
yeah.
there's six gangbangers with their pants down below their ass and they're walking around and blah, 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 blah. You know, they're all big tough guys. Um, you get three other guys. You know, I had this experience a couple of years ago. I'm sitting by myself late at night. Three of these guys come up and they want to shake me down for money and smokes and stuff like that. I said, okay, come and get it. I'm just sitting back. I'm relaxing. I have a beer in my hand. My legs are crossed. I'm sitting on a bench. I said, okay, take it. Come on, take it. You see, then they turn into the cowards that they really are. And
Right.
I've seen these guys, you know, as long as it's 10 on one, they're all brave. But if it's 1 on 1 and one of them gets punched in the nose, oh, they scream for their mommy, 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 mommy. I'm not kidding.
Right.
They'll cry for their mommy. They're like the biggest wimps ever. So, as long as there's no, they're 1 on 1, they're babies. They're just pathetic cowards. It's
Right.
disgusting. I would never walk around putting on airs of being a tough guy and then getting punched in the nose and screaming for my mommy. It's so disgusting. You know what a low characters they are. But that's what they are. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And I think that that's a transferable allegory, because the people that are in control and in power, they never get punched. They never have to deal with experiencing some kind of pain. And when that happens, when one of them gets punched or one of them experiences some kind of pain, you will see them fold like a cheap tent. Okay.
Hmm.
And they have right now the luxury of the luxury being not anonymous, because we know who a lot of these people are, but they have the luxury of being surrounded in a controlled environment. And if that controlled environment ever breaks down, these people will be scared shitless. And in fact, we're watching all these CEOs get out of Dodge because they're scared shitless.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
They know it will be, it'll be pitchforks and torches and long knives. And they get it. They understand that.
Yep.
Steve, we got any other questions from Chatlandia? And we lost his volume there. Hold on.
My bad. I did that.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to
Okay.
hear a little bit more about being a warrior, about preparing for everything, and you never really get to take a vacation either. I mean, this is what we're experiencing now has always been there, and we've seen it. Nobody else has seen it, but to live like a warrior means to prepare all the time, be prepared all the time for anything. And like you said, and to not get shocked by anything, or like you said, to be able to take a punch. Do you think of anything else in that regard, Stefan, that you could
Sure.
share?
In my search for enlightenment, which is my purpose in life since I turned 12, I had an enlightenment experience when I was 12, when I was in Holland, Christmas time in Eindhoven, and I snuck out of my aunt's house and traveled throughout the city. I just walked throughout the whole city at 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know what drove me out there, but since that time, my purpose in life has just been to seek enlightenment and purpose, and to be authentic, to be a real human being. And in my journey, I've come across all the different paths of spiritual enlightenment, the way of the yoga, bhakti yoga, the way of the heart, prana yoga, and Theravada yoga, and the different paths, the paths of the heart, the path of the mind, the path of the body. But I can say without a doubt that the path of the warrior is the most spiritual path. the most effective spiritual path you can go on. If, people think that if you are on, if you study yoga and meditation and all that, you develop sort of like almost superhuman powers like ESP, and you're more in tune with nature and all that. I didn't find that with those paths. But a warrior has superpowers. You eventually develop instincts. There's no way to describe it other than things that nobody else picks up on. You're aware of it, and you can see it and you can spot it. And a lot of it is instinctive. A lot of it is what Gurdjieff would call the moving instinctive center, and that's where the superpowers come in. That's where your super strength comes in. That's where super speed comes in. It's through the warrior path. It really is. Your body is a tool. It's the primary interface between your spirit and this world, and nothing else trains your body like the way of the warrior, because you need to know complex. You have to improve your kinesiotic intelligence by 100-fold. I mean, you need to know all these postures and movements, and you have to memorize hundreds of routines and choreography and balance and grounding and breathing and awareness and focus and understanding. I always told people, I said, I meditate in the woods. I said, okay, great. Spend 2 minutes with me in the sparring arena and let me see how focused you are, how well you can maintain your attention, your peace of mind, because I can guarantee they fall to pieces. I can maintain my calmness in the heat of combat. I dare anybody else from any other path to try that. They will fail. They'll fall apart. So the way of the warrior is really the ultimate spiritual path. And the more powerful you become as a warrior, the less people know about it, because you don't need it. You don't need to. I'm telling you, it's people defer to me for no reason whatsoever. They just sense my presence and they don't mess with me. Nobody fucks with me, Robert. And it's not because I look like a tough guy. It's not because I swagger when I walk down the street. Like when those three guys came up to me to shake me down, I didn't stand up and assume a fighting position. I didn't yell at them. I didn't threaten them. All I did was I sat calmly there. I had a sip of my beer. I said, "Oh, you want this stuff? Okay, come on and take it."
Right.
That is more frightening to predators than you jumping up and down going, "Yeah, well, I'm going to," and assuming some fancy, stupid pose that you learn in a movie, for crying out loud. Everything people know about martial arts, they see in movies. The real way of the warrior has got nothing to do with kung fu movies. Get that out of your head. It's not the Bruce Lee movies. This doesn't happen in real life. I was at the blood sport tournament in Kowloon. It wasn't anything like what you see in the movies. You got to get past all that. The real strength of a warrior is your absolute confidence in yourself that you can handle anything. And that confidence creates an electromagnetic field around you that people can sense. I'm not kidding. It's the Chinese call it qi, the Japanese call it ki. I call it the electroplasma universe, the electric universe. This is really how it works. I've seen it time and time again. I have an invisible barrier around me and nobody fucks with me ever. And then you know what? I can be polite with people. I can crack jokes with people. I don't have to put on some fierce look, and I don't have to get tattoos and piercings to scare people. I don't need that. You don't need that when you are confident in yourself.
Yeah. I think, I've always advocated that people take martial arts at one point or at some point in their life, or to have an ongoing relationship with martial arts, and especially children. I feel like children really need to be involved in martial arts, from a fairly early age, so that they could have confidence, and that they don't have to be at the fist end of a bully. And that's really the most important thing, I think, as a child, is to learn how to stand up for themselves. And then what happened is, and I remember this specifically during the early 2000s, when the Southern Poverty Law Center would send people out to neighborhood shopping centers, particularly in Northern California, but all over the country. And they were working on these anti-bully kinds of measures and anti-bully bills and anti-bully this, and like, let's legislate bullying out of our society. And I'm like, you can't legislate bullying out of our society. You can't do it. It's part of the things that we have to go through.
Yeah.
And that we actually acquire spiritual immunity when we can stand up to bullies.
Exactly.
I mean, this is a really important thing. And I broke into a conversation with one of these SPLC, agents, was really what they are. And he was talking to somebody. I said, really, I'll tell you, I'm really interested in this bullying thing. One of the things that kids can do and parents can do is to get their kids involved in martial arts so they can actually stop the bullying. And you should have seen the looks I got from not only him, but the woman that he was getting ready to sign that dotted line and give them $20 a month for their anti-bullying campaign. They looked at me like I was a leper. Okay. And this is how people have been conditioned. They've been conditioned because they don't want people to stand up for themselves. And they certainly don't want to support people who support the idea of people standing up for themselves. Steve, do we have another quick question? Because we got to wrap things up here with Stefan.
Yeah, well, let me just say too, he was talking about your aura. I think Corona is another form of aura. And also, the way of the warrior, the way he's describing it, sounds like it leads to the way to be the most alive. And they don't have the luxury of pretending. We've all been pretending that the government's going to help us and all this and that. But now we're seeing how it really is. And I just wanted to real quickly, let me see, because when Stefan was on with Freeman, the first part of that show was called Stolen Paradise, which is what we're experiencing now. And then the second part was Our Renaissance. And do you mind if I read that real quick? Or
Sure.
Do we not have much time?
Well, I've got to kind of wrap it up. So
okay, go ahead. Okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
But Stefan, I'd love to have you back on again because you are a wealth of knowledge. And, hopefully, yeah, you are. Yeah. So hopefully maybe in the next month or two, you'd like to come back on, and because we're going to be in a different place with this quote unquote crisis. And it'd be interesting to get your take and, get some more insight and feedback from you. So I'd love to have you back on,
Robert. Anytime.
Okay. Thank you very much.
But that's only because you're friends with Steve. And
oh, okay.
Thank you, Stefan.
And the listening audience doesn't know, but I love Steve.
We love you too. We're very fortunate to have you here and have you participating with the world.
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah. What's kind of funny? Real men tease each other about being gay. I call it two dogs fucking. It's like when aggressive male dogs meet each other, they'll often simulate sex,
Right. And
tough guys, when they get together with each other, they often tease each other about being gay. I've had that my whole life. It was the same thing when I was teaching. I'd have a room full of men in it, and I would, of course, address them all as ladies. Okay, ladies, and get your knickers on. Let's do 50 push-ups.
Right. Yeah.
So I got
that's
that
a military tactic.
Yeah, it's a military tactic, but it's a man tactic. It's part of the tradition we don't have anymore. We tease each other about being effeminate, which shows that we are not afraid. We don't question our own masculinity. I don't care how many people call me gay or queer or say I wear a dress or whatever. It doesn't matter because I know I'm a man. Nothing anyone can do or say can, change my image of myself as a masculine alpha male. And the same thing with the other alpha males. So Steve and Freeman, we tease each other a little bit. We tell each other we love each other all the time. But you know what? It's true. Like I said, I'm still a touchy-feely guy. I can be tough, but I love these guys. They're like my brothers, And so that's
one big family.
Yeah, one big happy family.
Yeah.
But
go ahead.
But there is a little bit of that teasing nature in me saying I love Steve.
Right. Well, I'll take your secondhand love through Steve. How's that?
Robert, you're welcome to join the family. I found this a very enjoyable conversation. You're doing a great job as an interviewer,
Thanks,
and I'll be
Stefan.
happy to come on anytime.
Okay, great. We'll look forward to having you back. Steve, thank
sir.
you for showing up here on Friday. Appreciate
You're
it. And again, you can
Anytime.
find Stefan, ChinaStrategies.com. Check it out. It is a veritable treasure trove of wisdom and survival and spiritual tools.
Can
So
I
I'll be
plug
back.
one last thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go to my website and go to Survival Library. I'm offering 280. I'm offering every one of my books, everyone, The Way of the Warrior, The Art of Urban Survival, 36 Strategy, every one of my books in PDF form. Plus, I throw in 280 books on survival, homesteading, emergency preparedness, emergency medical procedures, everything you need to know to survive what's coming. And if need be, rebuild civilization from scratch. Everything's in there. You need this. Download it, put it on a flash drive, and then you'll always have it, the information you need.
Beautiful. Thanks for doing that, Stefan.
No problem. Thanks, Robert.
Okay, you take good care now.
You too.
Bye bye.
Bye.
All right, that was Stefan Verstappen. Stefan Verstappen, yes. That was a great interview, huh?
How good was that? Beautiful.
Yeah.
Better than I could have imagined. And from your astro forecast, I knew, a lot of us knew what this year potentially was going to look like, and that's why I had interacted with Stefan, I don't know, maybe a couple of years ago, but I made sure to get him on with Freeman early in the year, so because I knew that he had all this information and it would be exactly what we needed to hear to prepare for this. And it's great that we have this way to interact too. So
yeah, I mean that was a really good call, and I've been talking about this now for the last year, really, just looking at Saturn, Pluto, and the eclipses, and I didn't want to sound like a broken record and repeat myself like some senile drooling old fart, so I had to lay off the messaging every now and then, but I've been pretty consistent, and we're here now. We're here now. So this is how I'm seeing things currently. Okay. I'm seeing things currently that we're probably going to get back online in about 2 to 2.5 weeks. The airlines are starting to raise their prices. Again, they got the stimulus package through, which is a big part of what this thing has been about. And I've been watching the kind of the ripple effect in pro sports. They're talking about restarting. We're watching Fauci begin to back off. We're watching this guy Niall Ferguson, the doctor, professor, researcher from NIH or National Health in Britain. So it's feeling like we're coming towards the end of a certain phase.
Right.
But do not fall asleep. Okay. Do not feel like it's business as usual, because it won't be. And we're going to have a very brief window here for a few months. And it's probably going to be from about the middle of April to about I'd say towards the end of the year. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with Christmas. Okay. And see if they actually let Christmas happen this year. I think they probably will, but I don't think we're going to get further past February of next year. And I have my own reasons for that, which I'll go over at some other time. But we are going to start to see some things happen in the fall, and especially around the election. That is there's a big red light coming in November. Okay. And one other thing is that we're going to have Mars in Aries, and it's starting in June, and it's going to be in Aries until the end of the year. All right. So you want to put your warrior boots on. You're going to have the opportunity astrologically with Mars and Aries. It is the most timely transit that we can be going through with this Mars and Aries transit. So it's never too late to really brush up on your warrior skills, whatever they are. You don't have to be a black belt by Stefan, but you do need to face your fears. And that's really kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah. Everybody's on the field now, and then there's no time. There's no time to waste. You need to prepare as best you can to for anything.
Mm-hmm.
There's no telling what's coming down the road. Well, we're seeing the power that that the state has, and we've been preparing for this. And like Masaki says, it's showtime. It's time to do what we've been talking about and preparing for. And
this is it.
And like I said, we're the leaders now. We've been trying to tell and convince everybody, so we just need to show the way. We're the way showers. Just do what we're supposed to be doing. Spin that flywheel, and when they see it, they'll gather to us.
Right. And I just want to talk really briefly about containment. And I'm not talking about containment of a virus. I'm talking about containment of your energy. Don't spill it out, right? Don't have conversations with people that don't warrant the conversation. Right. Don't try to convince somebody who's going to be tone deaf about, what you're experiencing or what you need to experience, because they're not going to hear it, and you're going to bleed your energy. Right. So we want to practice a form of containment where our energies are focused and all headed in the same direction. And if we got to coalesce our energies right now. So be mindful of that. Don't spill your energy all over the place. Okay. And one of the things that I think is really kind of vital here is that you could have conversations with people about, well, this person is this or this person is that. Watch out for gossip. Gossip is a really toxic, very toxic form of communication. So it's okay to have discussions about, people that are probably less than honest or savory about their intentions, but don't make it a lifestyle, and really think about who you're sharing it with and why. Okay. That's another form of containment, because we got to keep our energies intact. It's very important right now.
Yeah. Words manifest. So be deliberate in what you say. But that's great advice about containment. And what I think about too is think about what protects you and what nurtures you. Those two things. What protects you and what nurtures you, and focus on that. And you know what? I'm glad I remember this. I planted a new tree in the yard, but I also, and usually every spring I plant flowers, and I've got my little flower package here. That might be something nice for people to do. Go get some flower seeds, plant some flowers, and then, in a couple of weeks or a month, we can enjoy those.
Right.
Beautify the world in this time.
Right. And Jasper is booking sessions right now.
That's right.
So if you want to have a session with Jasper, he'll turn your life around. Hey, I'll be back on Sunday night Astro Live. I'm trying to get Jennifer Rubin on with me, so she can talk about her video, which I found to be quite interesting. But I got plenty of stuff to talk about astrologically. So I'll be back on Sunday night. And and if you want to support this, you can subscribe. And if you do want to get a reading, that's available to you as well. And for all of you who have and do, thank you. Thank you for the support. I'd like to keep this thing going so we can have, our own network here, where people like Stefan and Ersilia and myself and anybody else can come on, and we can share the most vital and important information that you need to know about. And now Steve is on the case, and he's going out there, and he's, helping get guests. And we're going to have E. Michael Jones on next week, which will be great. Love Michael. And Hope Easton's going to be on, and she's going to be doing some really wonderful cello music. So, it's not just information, but a little bit of creativity and inspiration as well.
Yeah, I listened to a little bit of Hope, and that was she's a good cellist. And I've been talking to other people too about coming on the show. So there's quite a few waiting in the wings. And so I'm excited.
Excellent. So am I.
All right, brother.
And thanks, Steve. Yeah, thank you. And thank you.
Always welcome.
And thank you, Chatlandia. We'll be back on Sunday nights. Use your head to discern what's real, and your heart to stay open to what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. Hang in there. Stay strong. We'll get through this. All right. Bye for now.